Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of filmandtvreview.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Filmandtvreview.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see filmandtvreview.com.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Film and TV Review. And we're looking back at last month's offerings across film and TV, across the month of January, and already had quite a few titles across the streaming and cinema screens. I'm joined by our regulars, James, Alfonso, and Richard. And so we'll kick off, and we'll also talk about maybe a bit of the Oscar nominations that were announced just very recently. So, welcome everyone. So, I think we'll start with the Boy and the Heron. That's another Studio Ghibli production or a long-running studio. But the Boy and the Heron just came out in late December. Richard and James, you saw this. Is it? It's got a huge reputation to live up to, but did you enjoy it, or was it a bit middling? Or just tell a bit about...
and Miyazaki he does this thing of saying that he's gonna retire and never does, which I think is quite kind of a smart thing to do, because everyone's just always looking forward to the next thing rather than having pressure, sort of building for years and years. But this is set, I suppose, before the end of the Second World War, I think, isn't it? We've had a lot of... So we were talking before about Oppenheimer and Godzilla -1, all these second World War films. But this is a young boy, and he's haunted by his mother's death during the Second World War, and is then visited by a heron, or it seems to be a heron. I was quite disturbed by this heron creature, which I don't think is given away in the film, and it's a very allegorical film, I think, rather than a sort of literal one. Yeah. It's quite dark, and I haven't seen all the Studio Ghiblis. I really love My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, and a few others, but maybe some of them are a bit lighter. This is definitely the dark and disturbing end, I think, of the spectrum, and I think maybe it has caught people a little bit unaware. Maybe some people that are used to some of the more softer Studio Ghibli output. But I really liked it, actually. I wasn't mad about it, but I feel like it's one I want to watch again, because I maybe underestimated it going into it. I mean, I actually saw a dub, because that was the only one that was on this side. And I don't mind anime dubbed, actually, because it allows me to look at, more at the animation. And the animation is like just top-notch 2D drawn animation that we're used to from Studio Ghibli. They don't really put a foot wrong in that respect. So yeah, quite an unusual story, I thought, but I kind of liked that. I liked that it sort of took me a bit off guard. It was a bit more challenging than I thought it would be. And I think it's done very well. But I think Richard, you probably liked it even more than I did, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I I don't know how much I can say about it, but I thought, yeah, it was maybe a very sad, strong word, but it's maybe one of the saddest of the Miyazaki movies that I have watched, possibly. But at the same time, the ending is very hopeful. And in a way, and maybe it's only me, as with my French eyes, I saw this movie and I definitely thought it was very comparable to Lewis Carroll Alice in Wonderland. Um, I kind of try not to say it last time we talked about it. I said actually, but I thought straight away about the very popular British book. Because in a way, both main characters, I don't know if you can say, but actually they escape or they decide to escape in a magical and unreal world to solve their own problems, or they are pushed there. But in a way, I thought it was like a more grown up and more mature version of Alice in Wonderland, this movie, and that's why I might like it even more, because maybe it appeals more to me, because obviously I'm older than since the last time I watched Alice in Wonderland, so I was like 10 years old. And yeah, and the whole story is about death, rebirth, and the acceptance of death. I thought was amazing. I usually don't cry watching animated movies, to be honest, but I did have some tears in my eyes sometimes during watching this movie. You said it, James. There is definitely it's very there are a lot of metaphors and allegories, and it's really well done. Yeah, I thought it was magical, but also, as I said, very interesting comments about death and rebirth, and acceptance of death, and moving on, etc. So yeah, yeah. Is it my favorite Miyazaki movie? I said in the past that my favorite one will remain Princess Mononoke, but it's definitely up there. I haven't seen all of them, but most of them, but it's still up there.
Hmm, okay. Yeah, I've had the same thing, kind of a mixed thing, but great looking work anyway in every single film. But okay, bit mixed on that one. Okay, next, another offering we've got is Paul Giamatti, is with a lot of bit of Oscar buzz here around this one as well, is in The Holdovers, which is, I think he plays a prep school lead who's forced to stay over the Christmas break with a cook and a troubled student. Sounds a bit of a premise like I know, the Dead Poets Society meets The Breakfast Club, which is a bit of a cult classic. Those oldies there. James and Richard, you both saw this as well. James,
Yeah,
what
so
do you
I
think?
saw this last night, and Breakfast Club comparison is one that come up quite early on. I thought that's what this was going to be, because I had seen a trailer, but it hadn't really gone in particularly. I knew it was up for some sort of Oscars, so I wanted to watch it. But I thought there's quite a long build up, in a way, of like about almost 30 minutes of all the kids. So I didn't realize that that was the premise that you just very well said, Jason, is that they're kind of left it's him, Paul Giamatti is the headmaster. One of the one student is left over Christmas, and also the cook is there and the janitor, and they kind of become almost like a slightly dysfunctional sort of family of outcasts that sort of nobody wants over Christmas. And I I really wasn't expecting to love this film like as much as I did. I thought it might fall into that category of, oh, I admire it, or maybe I feel I should like this. But I thought it was like perfect. Like there's nothing about this film that I would change. It starts and it looks really oldie worldy. Like just the texture of it looks like it's shot on film, and I don't think it is. It even comes up with an old BBFC classification card at the end, which they must change in every country or something. But I mean, that's by the by. These little details. But I think it. I mean, I laughed a lot, and so did everybody. There's a lot of jokes in it, but all the jokes sort of come from the characters and just how much you care about the characters and their behavior rather than like one-liners. Although there are some one-liners in there. But them sort of starting to find the grounds of where they seem like this dysfunctional bunch who've got nothing in common, and as they start to find their commonality, that's really the heart of the movie. And there's some really touching and sad moments in there. I think it probably ends sort of in a hopefulish sort of way, but there are certainly moments of just heartbreak throughout this film. It's not similar in its structure or anything to Banshees of Inisherin, but I felt that way about it, that I laughed a lot and I felt very sad a lot throughout it. And there were certainly bits that people laughed at that I didn't, because I thought I find that heartbreaking. A little bit like Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri as well, that kind of tone. But the performances are really, really good. I mean, Paul Giamatti, I've seen do a lot of, he plays like the same I've seen him play like a sort of a manager type in the NWA movie and the Beach Boys movie. He sort of does that, but he's quite although he's quite cold to start with, he's quite a sympathetic character in it. He's a really I don't know if he's won an Oscar before, but I think this could be potentially his moment. It's really good. Divine Joy Randolph, who plays the Mary Lamb, who's the school cook as well. She's fantastic in it. And I think it's Dominic Sessa is the young guy, but the three of them together, yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. And I know we're going to get to Poor Things, but when I saw Poor Things, I was like, I think already this might be my favorite movie of the year. It's the first one I've seen in 2024, and I think at the end of the year, this is going to be my favorite movie. I can't call it at the moment between this and The Holdovers. It really took me by surprise, and yeah, so I definitely liked it a lot.
Ooh, Jay,
Set in 1970. I don't think I said that because I was trying to work out when it was set, and it was only at the end that I worked out it was 1970. So yeah.
Okay. Richard, you found it?
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever said, what said James is absolutely true. I would just go as far as saying actually it's my favorite movie of the month. Well, I don't know it will be my top 10 BC or whatever, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. The fact actually that the story creates the perfect conditions for three people actually who have no one else in their lives, no families, nothing, etc., and they get together. That was a good idea, to be honest. Although a little bit forced, in my opinion, but I'm nitpicking, to be honest. But anyway, definitely for me, yes, the two stars of the movie. Not really the teenager, but definitely perhaps Paul Giamatti, but also definitely I can't remember the name, but yeah, the woman who plays the cook is she is definitely doing a great job. Well, it's not a spoiler to be honest, but yeah, she plays actually the mother of a kid literally who is like, I don't know, 17, 18 years old, who went to the Vietnam War and was killed. And it's again, it looks like actually I'm always crying in front of movies in this podcast, but this time again, it's sometimes there are some scenes actually with her actually, but you put yourself in the shoes. To be honest, and you can think actually that there's like probably hundreds of thousands of parents actually who lost their kids for wars, especially in the US in recent years. So it's it was a great performance, and I know we're going to talk about Oscars afterwards, but there's a good chance actually that for me she's the favorite. I mean, I don't know why she wouldn't get it, to be honest. Also, to give credits, I don't know what the expression in English is, but to give credits to whoever said it, but I think it was Afonso. I mentioned actually that I thought that Cillian Murphy will win the Oscar for Best Actor. After watching this movie, I don't know anymore. That being said, because Afonso was definitely saying that actually it is true, but because the point of Academy Awards usually it's rewarding a whole career of someone. Let's face it. And although Cillian Murphy has a good career, what about Paul Giamatti? Now, that being said, my only problem with Paul Giamatti that I feel, and that I think James was about to mention it, I feel that Paul Giamatti is always doing the same thing. I can't remember actually a performance of Paul Giamatti in a movie where I was thinking, oh, that's very out of the ordinary. That's very something I've never seen with him. I feel like I always see the same thing with him, but to be fair, he does a good job playing this kind of I don't know, not very sympathetic, an antipathic guy actually who doesn't like the world and the world doesn't like him, and he wants to be left alone, etc. And he has the perfect, I don't know, even his face is actually perfect for this. I don't know, maybe it's perfect for this kind of role. Would it be enough to get the awards? I don't know, perhaps, but at least now I'm not sure anymore. But yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's a great movie. I would say just a very nice, what's the expression? Feel good movie, because in the end, actually, it's hopeful. I want to say even for the three of them, it's the ending is more hopeful than it is the rest of the movie. So yeah, it's worth your watch. Yeah.
And it's a Christmas movie as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
true.
I mean, yeah, the
Just in
timing of the release in the UK is terrible, but I think this might have to go on a sort of list of films that I rewatch at Christmas, because it's definitely got a bit of sweet feeling to it.
Oh yeah, that does really put legs on stuff, on films like every year. But I mean, yeah, but Paul Giamatti, yeah, it's as you say with Oscars, they tend to reward careers rather than an individual performance. Just but yeah, he's always been strong, one of their strongest character actors they have, quite honestly, in the US I've seen. So, but he does some important work. But yeah, it'd be interesting what they choose this year. But he's well deserved it if he does it, just based on career alone, I think, on the background work he tends to do in movies. Right. Well, we're talking about Oscar buzz. Bring us back to our next film, which you just mentioned, James, was Poor Things. That's Emma Stone in a kind of a fantastical drama about almost like a Frankenstein kind of like tale of a woman created by a scientist and then her evolution in quite fantastical settings.
Well, yeah, I mean, it pretty much is. I mean, I think it doesn't try to hide that particularly. So Willem Dafoe is a Gunther von Argen or Dr. Frankenstein type guy, and I wouldn't say exactly what happens because we find out a bit later, but he basically reanimates a woman. You find out a bit more about what's happened there, but it's later on. So he reanimates Emma Stone as the sort of creature, if you like, the Frankenstein's creature, and she's definitely very sort of young in her ways, but in an adult's body, and she goes on a sort of journey through life, really, to sort of find her way, but as this created creature. She calls Willem Dafoe God as well, which is quite sweet. It's from the director of the Lobster. I almost said the creator then. The Lobster and The Favourite, which are fantastic movies. And it's definitely got that like crazy kind of feel to it. I mean, even the cinematography and the look of it, that fisheye lens that he uses a lot during The Favourite, it feels like you're in this madly twisted world. It doesn't really feel like anything else other than this director. He's certainly an auteur. But I mean, I love the Frankenstein story anyway, and this is just a very sort of modern take on it. I think it does really remind me of Barbie in places, like the idea of like when Barbie gets to the real world in that film and her sort of discovery through that. there's a little bit of that later on in this film. But Mark Ruffalo as her the man that she sort of, I don't know if I can't remember now if they're engaged or not, but her sort of love interest in it is very, very funny. And yeah, it's a really quirky, sort of bizarre fantasy film, but I loved it. Thought it was great.
Richard, you saw this as well, I think.
Bizarre, yeah. Bizarre is the word, yeah. No, I think if you have to sum it up in one word, bizarre, that would be the perfect word. Okay, so it's hard actually to explain how and to describe this movie, but also actually to explain how you feel about this movie, to be honest. I really enjoyed The Lobster back then, the same director, because it was completely absurd, but at the same time, it was in a way very funny. It doesn't matter if it was absurd, at least it was, yeah, it was fun, and you can see that the actors and the actresses had fun on the set. In this movie, to be honest, I'm not sure I laughed a lot. And yeah, I mean, it definitely has qualities. Yes, yeah, I think it's a great director, and even the visuals are extraordinary. The world they live in is like this Victorian era England's, in a way, perhaps. I don't know if it's true, but I don't know if it's set at the end of the 19th century, but it looks like sometimes at the end of the 19th century, and the world looks like the end of the 19th century. But at the same time, I think it's set in the 21st. I don't know, and it's very strange. The visuals are, you feel like you're on Earth, but at the same time, it's like a painting of the Earth sometimes. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, well-crafted movie. But now for the story element of it, that's where I have issues, to be honest. Because definitely this movie is about the place of women in our society, and the fact actually that they are put aside and they have to fight to actually to create their own place, they create their own careers, etc. And it's a strong message. It's good, but there are some messages like this. Now, that being said, I'm not sure that the story and the methods they choose to push this message in this movie is the right one, to be honest. I don't know. Yeah,
By that, Richard, do you mean because of the sort of like a lot of sex scenes and that sort of stuff? Is that what you're getting
yes
at?
and no, because it's completely. I mean, it's respectable. It's a respectable job like any other job, I guess. Because, well, no spoiler alert, but yeah, most of the movie actually, but Emma Stone character plays a prostitute. It's not about that. It's yeah, okay. Maybe you're right, James. Maybe I misunderstood you. If the idea is to show that a woman, especially perhaps in a very strict society, etc., has to do the worst things just to have her own life and create her own future, fair enough. But is it necessary to show actually every single sex client that she's gonna get? I'm not sure. I think it was almost actually a bit gratuitous, a bit actually just actually for the sake of having another sex scene, we're gonna have another client and another client, and it lasts a long time. Honestly, I had people walking away from my movie theater while I was watching it. I'm not even joking. And it's one of the first time I see that. I see people actually walking away not because they were feeling comfortable, but I can see in French saying that it's bullshit, literally, this movie. And I don't know if I can say that they're completely wrong. That's a problem. I mean, not the whole movie, but these scenes, I was thinking, are they really necessary? That's strange. Yeah, and because the fact is that it's also felt completely out of place sometimes. There's like 3 or 4 different periods in this movie, and one is her being like this woman who, as James was explaining, kind of reborn and learning, like growing up literally in her mind. And then the second one is exploring the world, but also exploring her literally her sexuality. And then there is a third one comes straight away where she's, or and I still don't know why, she's going back with the guy. Well, I'm not going to spoilers, but she's living with the guy who is like this crazy psychopath guy, and she lives with him, and he's probably the the symbol of all the terrible men in this world, and there's a lot of them. It's true, who do exist, but it's just actually that I was thinking, but what's going on? Are we watching another movie now? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know, because I respect the work behind the scenes. I respect what they try to do, but I thought they could have done a better job in the screenplay, let's say. But yeah, that's my feelings. I know it's very confused feelings. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it's a very strange movie to explain and to talk about. To be fair, one of the weirdest experience I ever had in a movie theater. Let's face it.
It is based on a book as well, isn't it? So it's an adaptation of a novel. That part that you said is sort of what I thought of that almost as the epilogue, that part. But yeah, it's almost like another section, isn't it? But yeah.
It's got some Oscar nominations for, is it a performance for Emma Stone, is it? Or
Yeah, I believe so. Mark Ruffalo, I think, is up for supporting actor as well, probably adapted screenplay.
It has 11 nominations.
11 nominations.
The second most nominated after Oppenheimer, which has 13.
Yeah, and I mean the sex scenes. I just thought of it almost like it's like the Rocky montage scene, but it's just with like literally that's what it is. It's sort of like it's presented like that. They don't have "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor to soundtrack it, but apart from that, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, more interesting. All right then. Well, another feature that just came out a bit earlier in the year, but hit streaming more recently, is Saltburn, which has had quite a big word of mouth. If anyone you talk to, they seem to be mentioning this title. It's set in Oxford University. I think a young student finds himself kind of like enrolled in a kind of this subculture of a aristocratic classmate, and opening that world and getting some quite a lot of people who've seen it keep recommending it.
They keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it has also a little bit of sex scenes, a few of those.
Yes. Alfonso, you saw this, and James. Alfonso, is it worth the word of mouth? I
mean, it's worth talking about it. It's it's a movie that has many scenes that seem to have been thought to provoke word of mouthness, because the main character has a bit of an infatuation with Jacob Elordi and all his universe, and all the characters and the mansion, the Saltburn house, the countryside. With he spends there I think it's the summer period, and he gets like adopted by Jacob Elordi and his family, and then more and more strange things start to happen around this dynamic, or more like out there behaviors. I don't know if out there, but basically he really likes being there and being next to Jacob and his family. And it was a fun movie. Basically, it doesn't take itself seriously, I would say.
James, you saw this as well.
Yeah, I mean, you did a very good job of describing it. I think the reason a lot of people have gone to see. I know that a lot of people in a few WhatsApp groups that have gone to watch this because of what the people who've seen it are discussing. Because everyone says, I can. I don't want to say this because it's a spoiler. There's certainly two things in it. I mean, one thing is so extreme that it almost made me forget the other extreme thing in it, and it's not even extreme. It's just like I've never seen those two things depicted or even talked about ever. Like they're just so, and you can't even put like a content warning because it would be a spoiler. But when I watched this, so I watched this at cinema in November, and I'd seen the trailer, and obviously, Barry Keoghan, who's brilliant and everything. Banshees of Inisherin last year or the year before was fantastic. Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant, who I wasn't aware was in the film until I saw it. But the trailer doesn't really tell you anything. I thought it looks lovely, but it's going to be a sort of arty-farty film. I don't know what this is about, and I think that you sit down thinking this is going to be an LGBT drama, and it's going to have some sort of social kind of thing. By the end of it, you go, "Oh no, this was a bit of fun, like the most twisted fun possible." But that's what it was. There was no message here. This is about just sort of being, it's a really good fun film. It's the best reaction I've had from anybody in the cinema as well. That at horror films you often get people who can't contain their anxiety and they vocalize. And there was a moment with the scene 20 minutes from the end where some people just burst into anxious laughter. So obviously some strangers sat next to each other because they were like, I don't know how to react to this. You could just sort of tell that they didn't mean to react in this way, but it's almost like a snowball effect of more and more extreme things, and then you just tip, I think, by the end and go, oh my God. But a lot of the songs from the soundtrack, because there's sort of songs from the noughties have re-entered the charts off of the back of this, particularly Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis Bextor, which is the last song you hear in the film, which you will never be able to hear again without thinking of the end of this film if you see it. But yeah, an odd one, and quite cruel that they dropped it between Christmas and New Year, where families might watch it together. Because, as I said, I wouldn't want to watch this film with my family, but as Alfonso said, why not watch it with your family and create new experiences, which I think is better than the tagline. So.
Oh, great. Christmas tree. It does make me want to watch it. Just basically, the more people talk around it, the more you want to actually see this. So, it's definitely one on the list. Our next title sounds very Oscar baity, actually, but it is Maestro. I think it's the Leonard Bernstein biopic. Bradley Cooper going under prosthetic transformation, which tends to be a habit of Oscar contenders. Let's see, Richard and Alfonso.
It is very Oscar baity, as you say. It's totally Oscar baity. It's one of those films where the main couple have it's a biopic to start with, so you have the main couple that you follow them to their lives. Leonard Bernstein and his wife Felicia Montenegro, that are played by Cooper and Carey Mulligan. And he's let's say like a very bright, even let's say genius composer and orchestra director, who does more popular, less classical music. He does musicals. He even did, I think, scores for movies. And the movie has the whole movie has his creations as soundtrack. It's one of those movies where there are there are prosthetics characterizations as they age. sad moments, happy moments, moments with the couple and their love relationship. So there's a little bit of conflict between them because Bernstein was, I guess, bisexual. He had affairs, let's say, but it doesn't represent such a conflict for the couple, or even for the movie. I mean, and he's very good at his job, so the movie has excellent production values. Of course, very nice music of Bernstein himself. Does those things of changing the format, going from black and white to color. If you like classic Hollywood, it has a lot of that in the costumes, in the eras. Netflix has given him a lot of money, so I don't know. It's just a movie that it's kind of watchable, but if you like some kind of conflict that propels it, apart from Felicia Montenegro being a little bit pissed because his husband is always chasing some guy. Sorry, I don't know if I'm spoiling. There's too much. There's not too much to spoil. There are other things, but it was a little bit like, well, yeah, nice, but
Richard, share those thoughts. Is it
Yeah.
a bit too?
I'm already laughing because I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say about this movie. So if you have problem of insomnia, this movie is for you, my friend. I mean, I really don't. Okay. So here's my rant about biopics. So it was coming. So I don't see the point of these movies. I really don't see the point. Maybe I need to be involved in the classical world and etc. Maybe I will get more invested in this kind of movie. I don't think so, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that someone who actually plays a violin or has 10 years of experience in the musical world will still not care about this movie. It's just sometimes the most extraordinary man or woman doesn't need a movie made of him or her, but also his or her story is not interesting enough for the main general audience. And that's, again, the problem with Maestro. I mean, what is this story about? Story, and by the way, maybe there is a good story there, but there's like 1,000 little different things actually, but there isn't developed enough. I was listening to Alfonso. Yes, there is the fact that actually that he is bisexual, and I guess what we're trying to say is that since he's a public figure, he kind of has to hide that he has homosexual boyfriends. I don't know, because at some point there is a scene with Carey Mulligan, who plays his wife, where she says that he's becoming not very careful or something like that, and he has to be careful or whatever because she kind of found him kissing another guy. But I think that she was all right with it. She knows about this, so she's not pissed off, but I'm guessing she's pissed off if someone else was seeing him. I don't know. I wasn't sure about this. Maybe. And then there is this, out of nowhere, by the way, we found out actually that Carey Mulligan character, his wife, has a cancer and she's dying, or she's actually or not dying, whatever. And I was thinking, but okay, but that's another story, but that has no roots or whatever. I say, okay, that's sad, but it's just, in a way, it is maybe a perfect biopic if you think that the biopic is supposed to be the life of someone. But the life of someone is not interesting. If it's about, so in the year 1945, I was champion of a chess tournament. And in 1955, my brother found out that he has a cancer, and in 1965 I got a kid. Okay, good for you, but who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
that is just different part of a life of a random guy. That's how I saw Maestro. Different parts of a life of a random guy. I didn't see the inspiration because it was someone actually who changed the world somehow, and I didn't care. And it doesn't mean actually that again that you need to know a lot about this industry or this field. I think I enjoyed biopics about things that I didn't know anything about because I was transported in the world of that person. In that case, I wasn't transported at all. I couldn't care less about what he was creating or his talents, whatever, because I think there was not enough time shown about what his real talent was. There is actually one good scene, I guess, where Bradley Cooper goes crazy for like 5 minutes, where he's actually in front of the whole orchestra. That was fun, but that was once in the movie, I think. I don't know. I mean, again, a bit like what I said for Poor Things, I appreciate the effort, especially from the two main actors and actresses, Karen Minigan and Bradley Cooper. You can see that they tried, and they tried a lot. They made a huge effort. But the movie itself, my God, it was long. And it was long for no reason whatsoever. You could sum it up in 10 minutes.
In some cases, I think it's good when a biopic has some sort of thing. I mean, when their profession makes them go through struggles, like, for example, A Beautiful Mind, which the wife was there, but the wife was secondary to what we thought in the beginning that was some kind of spy theme with his work and mathematics and stuff. So the story kind of made you go through another, like you had another point of interest. If Bernstein had something to accomplish in career-wise, some kind of very difficult task, something, and the wife story could have been there too, but I think Cooper I think he misses, in my opinion, but maybe it seems like he didn't want to do that, and he becomes so reverential and so enamored of Bernstein that he doesn't put enough obstacles in his path, non-career wise. It's not like, I don't know, for example, you have another kind of, it's not a biopic, but it is a biopic, the Imitation Game, about Alan Turing. Those kind of, you have a story there, which you are telling it from you're following Alan Turing throughout a lot of his life, but there is a story there about his work. And even, Oppenheimer, it's called Oppenheimer, and it's about something that happened at his job that was very relevant for the world. But in this case, he goes, like, if it's like in those movies, they just got the human side, the part where he's at his home with his wife and their troubles, and not the professional side.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Another film that Tyler's mentioned is Society of the Snow. This seems to be a flight of the rugby team that crashed on the Andes. Is this the same story as the film that was depicted in Alive, or is this a new one? Because I feel like this story is seen in another film.
I think it's about the same accident.
It is, but in another language.
Is it adding something new to this, or maybe you both saw this?
To be fair, I haven't watched the other versions of this. I heard about it. My father a few years ago read a book about this. I talked about it, and yesterday when I decided to watch this movie, because he had a lot of Oscar buzz. He had a nomination, etc. I think he got a nomination, by the way. But I was thinking, but is this the movie? Sorry, but it's not a spoiler, right? Everyone knows this story. We can talk about what I'm going to say. I say, is this a story my father told me about when I was a kid, where people ate each other to survive? I said, I need to watch this movie just to see if it's about this. And honestly, for the first 50 minutes, it's a great movie, by the way. It's a great movie, well done. But the first 50 minutes, I just waiting this. I was waiting, is this about I was waiting, are we going to see actually people eating each other? So, well, it's not like that. It's not like Cannibal Holocaust. If anyone knows this movie, it's not like that. It's not that dumb. They just feel, I mean, in a nutshell, it's a group of friends in a rugby team in 1972 who go from, they are Uruguayans. They go from Uruguay to Chile in a plane that cross the, how do you say in English? Andes? Andes?
The Andes. The Andes.
Andes, thank you. And they crash. And but they are completely stranded on a mountain. I think it's 3,000 meters high or something like that. And there's absolutely no way actually that they can be found, especially with the snow and the color of the plane. And so they are stranded with no food, literally nothing, for days and days. And at some point, yes, they actually, because there's some people actually who died during the crash itself, and also died because of the temperature, obviously, they eat the dead bodies to survive. But that's just one part of the movie. It's not the whole thing, to be honest. Obviously, it's about survival and survival instincts, and it's in a way, I don't know. It's I was about to say it's a feel-good movie. No, it's not a feel-good movie. In a way, the idea of survival, the idea actually that even in the worst conditions whatsoever, but honestly, the movie is so good that at some point, although it is a true story, I was thinking there is no chance they're gonna survive this. There's no chance they're gonna be one guy surviving this, because again, no, I'm not gonna spoil this. So they are stranded, and there are things happening while they are already stranded with no food whatsoever. There are things happening, but I was thinking, but they are reaching another low. It's another thing. I said, thank God, they are so bad luck, and it keeps going down and down and down. And yeah, it's compared to this masterpiece, Maestro. You feel the 2 hours and 50 minutes of Maestro, and you look at your watch every 10 minutes. This one, I didn't look at my watch once, so that's a good sign.
Alfonso, did this add anything new, or was this really kind of like?
I saw the previous one when a lot of time ago when it came out, and I thought, from what I remember, it's pretty much the same. Of course, it's the same, kind of like the same story, but also the same vibe in this. In the what I'm referring to is like it's a group of characters and they have to survive, and there are many characters, so you don't focus on one particular character. There's a narrator, but there are a lot of characters, and all of them speak. So it's about the same kind of ideas of friendship, of companionship, of like having to survive, taking into account that everyone has to eat and has to survive the cold, the bad conditions, everything, and take decisions along the way of what to do with, like Richard said, about eating or not eating. And these are like, I think they were young men from an accommodated class, some of them quite religious. So they are like basically like your typical team of young men who go to play with a match against another team. Like they are like regular people who get into a very unusual situation, and to me it is a well-made movie. It is an entertaining movie, but it's not like it. For example, it's not. This is not Oscar baity because there's so many characters, so many like the all of them are like one big character that tries to survive. Each one they are not known actors. It's a survival film about the values of helping each other, basically.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think there would be much room for, but it's just interesting that we have this other version. But
Mentioned that actually the director is J.A. Bayona, who is kind of famous, actually, a very good director behind The Orphanage and unfortunately for him, Jurassic Park: Fallen Kingdom.
A Monster Calls.
The Monster Call. Thank you.
Impossible.
Much better reference, also. Yeah.
yes.
And the Jurassic World
Monster Call is beautiful.
I mean, Fallen Kingdom is the best Jurassic Park film since the original, but yeah.
Yeah, the Jurassic World Haunted Mansion.
I'm sure
the mansion.
Put that on their CV. Right. Well,
yeah.
One True Life Story to another, a bit more of a local affair, and this is probably in the news as well. I'll let James explain. And this is Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which kind of like covers probably was proving to be one of the biggest miscarriages of British justice in living memory. James.
So Mr. Bates versus the Post Office is a 4-part drama that aired between sort of the first week of New Year in the UK. And it got 9.2 million viewers, which is sort of unheard of now. Line of Duty might get that, but terrestrial TV doesn't get those sort of viewing figures anymore. This case, the best way to explain it, I suppose. So in 2000, the Post Office in the UK tried to get a computer system going called Horizon. They tried to modernise the Post Office, but this system didn't work. So postmasters and postmistresses all over the country found that they had massive shortfalls in their stock takes, which weren't true, that it was an IT fault, basically. But rather than admit that there was an IT fault, these people were prosecuted. And this has gone on for 20 years, that people were told, you need to pay back sometimes thousands of pounds, sometimes £10,000. You need to pay this back, otherwise you're going to jail. And you're the only person having this problem. And this sort of literally went on for like 15 years before it even become a thing. It has been known, but it's very interesting in terms of stories like this don't necessarily make the front page of the paper because they're IT stories or they're about people living in villages and they're seen as sort of dry news stories. But the woman who wrote this said that she wrote it like Avengers Assemble. So bizarrely, I mean, the idea that these people were all prosecuted and some of them are still found guilty. Pregnant people were sent to prison. There were 4 known suicides as a result of this. And those are depicted in the movie or in the TV show. But there's actually sort of a feel-good sense to people coming together once they all realise that they're having the same miscarriage of justice perpetrated against them. It does become quite a good sort of feel-good drama. Toby Jones plays Alan Bates. Now, Alan Bates is the only person who kind of said, no, I'm not going to pay this money back. I know this is an IT fault. And kind of led the charge. You think in 2000 there wasn't the internet on the wide scale that there was now. Someone would just tweet this out now. But it took people years before they realised that they were being singled out by the Post Office. And the Post Office still sort of refusing, even though there's a public inquiry, to admit the scale of what they've done. And it's become a huge thing now. The Prime Minister's talking about it and it's really got eyes on it. But it does work as a kind of feel-good drama as well as something that has kind of humanized this story. And there's about over 1,000 people that this applied to. and some of these people are dead now as well. They just haven't made it because they're older people.
Yeah,
But
it makes
yeah, so it's
it kind of 550 postmasters were involved, but of course in their families. But
in the legal action in 2019, that was 555. But there were people who've come forward as a result
sure.
of that case and stuff, and they reckon now it is sort of just short of 1,000 people that we know of.
It is. It is the drama itself. It does make pains that it can easily sentimentalize if you can imagine like a TV feel good drama like you said, but it's not. It kind of like it's almost like procedural work. It's the kind of meticulous kind of bit by bit, but then what makes for hard viewing is how these almost get victimized by this kind of like entity which is that organization,
the cuddly old post office, and people were really sort of saying, how has this happened? And it does seem that as an entity, nobody questioned this at the post office. So the idea of saying, installing a new computer system and going, there's no defects. We know that computers have problems, but the post office installed this thing in 2000 and they knew before it went live that it was riddled with bugs and errors. But rather than be transparent about this and investigate it, they just started saying it's the fault of the users. The users have done this wrong, and we're going to make them pay this money back. So really outrageous story. But yeah, it's done something that weirdly journalists have been talking about this story for years. But you put it in a TV drama, and people say terrestrial TV drama is dead. But the fact so many people watched this and so many people got angry about it, and it's really caused like a national conversation. It was like the top story for about 2 weeks in the UK. It's really kind of drawn eyes to something that has been in plain sight for ages, but nobody was paying attention to.
I just want to special mention to Toby Jones, who seems to appear in everything I watch. He's always one of those like mainstay great character actors that we have. I mean, I know
he's in Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom actually as well, isn't he? So
yes,
it all comes around in the end.
Right. Well, another, as we're on TV fair, I think another series that is probably HBO Max, Sky, if you're here, is the 4th season of True Detectives, which has Jodie Foster starring in the series. The setting here is an Alaskan small town and a small research outpost where a kind of like gruesome occurrence happens where I think we're in episode 2, where the premise is there has been not so much a murder, but some kind of mass death that is happening in that research facility, and and Jodie Foster takes the lead. I of course watched the first season of it. I think there was a huge big talk of it as Matthew McConaughey. Then I left it for a while, but then I got drawn back into this, and it's not bad. Alfonso, you've seen this, and James?
And I think it's really good, in my opinion. I think it's great. A return to form totally for this series of True Detective. It could have been called anything. But True Detective, it's okay. Isa Lopez, the showrunner and director of most of the episodes, if not all, is great. I don't know what she has done before, but she has conceived this very interesting story. It has I don't know if it will have a little bit of supernatural elements as the first season of True Detective. It seems like it also has a mismatch kind of duo of cops between Jodie Foster and Callie Rice. Jodie Foster, I didn't know how much I missed her being a cop since Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, exactly.
But here she's like, if Clarice Starling had become quite like a little bit jaded, a little bit burned by her profession after a while, after she was sent to Alaska. But she has been around the block a couple of thousands of times. But she still is engaging, and you kind of like being around her in this series. She does a very good like counterpoint to, although they are both tough, but the other cop is a black cop who, both women, by the way, who they both in the past there was another crime, and the black cop was quite traumatized by not being able to solve that. And Jodie Foster was also kind of knew about the story, because I think she came to the town afterwards. But now they have this big enigma of what has happened to the men that were in this outpost, because something really strange has happened to them. and even a little bit funny, but in the second episode. And it has a lot of around them. There are a lot of characters that are very much from that town called Ennis in Alaska, but quite also lively and interesting. And you know that an interrogation is always going from one character to the other and getting to know the society of that kind of place where there are a lot of dates where it's going to be only night, so you're always lost if it's in the. And also Jodie Foster just believes in working nonstop, so you never know at what time of the day you are in this series. And it has that kind of eerie kind of look also, so it's always, I like the atmosphere very much. Anyhow, I really enjoyed it.
It reminded me a little bit of like Twin Peaks, a bit of Seven, maybe. I think the director herself said she was quite inspired by that. Here it's a very cold and isolated, but it's intriguing. And I just think it needs a bit more eyes on it, but that's it. Anyway, well, if I we'll just go around, and if there's any special mentions that we might have missed out on that you want special mentions.
I do want to mention.
Yep, go ahead.
I want to mention something that was also set in an iced place with a lot of coldness, isolated characters in a setting, which is the new series by Britt Marlin, A Murder at the End of the World, which is on Disney Plus, and I really enjoyed it too. I mean, it's only it's a mini series. I don't think it's gonna have a second season. Maybe it will have a second season, but it's about this billionaire, kind of an Elon Musk, which is creating some kind of how we will survive the future when the climate change tries to kill us. And he's in this, I don't know if it's Iceland or some kind of remote place and near the North Pole. And he has invited like people who think outside of the box. And well, a murder happens. And there's this amateur detective, 20-something-year-old girl, who is there and is trying, has personal reasons to solve it, although it's very difficult in this place that is so technologically everything is controlled by the AIs and robots and everything, and it's difficult to know which of these very intelligent people would have a motive for killing the victim. I thought it was interesting to mix this kind of Agatha Christie with the ideas of billionaires and climate change. And to me, it was very entertaining. And also, I just wanted to mention also Percy Jackson and the Olympians, also on Disney, because it has been a surprise. It's for kids and teenagers, but it has great music, great visuals in most episodes, a very interesting. This kind of Harry Potter is two guys and one girl going on an adventure kind of thing, being chased by bad guys, like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows kind of thing. It's very Harry Potter like. So I think it has enough quality to recommend it to everyone.
Okay. Quickly, Richard, James, any special mentions for the last month that you want to?
Yeah. Two things. So we discussed before the podcast. There's been the release of the second season of Breakpoint on Netflix, which is kind of a documentary series by Netflix for 2 years in a row now. They do about the world of tennis, and the top level of tennis, because the whole idea is to, in each episode, to follow the path over a year of one single player, usually one of the top 10 players, and you see the ups and downs, especially the downs, to be honest, of what it is to be a tennis player. Yeah, it's interesting documentary that I recommend, especially if you don't know anything about tennis. And the second thing is a movie that was recommended by Alfonso once again last month, called Missing. I think you recommended it last month, if I'm not mistaken, Alfonso. But it is in the same universe as Searching, but was for me an enormous, extraordinary surprise a few years ago because of the way the movie is made. Hard to explain. It's just actually that in a way you only see the plot in front of you through the eyes of technology, I would say. It's the third movie in that anthology, by the way, called The Run, that is very different. Decent movie with Sarah Paulson, but not the same concept, not the same way of making movies.
Okay. And quickly, James, anything just want to mention that worth catching?
So Priscilla, Sophie Coppola film, which I thought was very good, very sort of almost like a companion piece in a way to Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, a very different story, focusing on Priscilla Presley's life, with is it Jacob Elordi? Yeah, but he's there as playing Elvis. He's very, very good actually in that. He doesn't take a bath, luckily, which I think he's someone who can never take a bath on film after Saltburn. That's what I'm going to say. But yeah, I like the understated nature of that film. I thought it was really good. I did see American Fiction as a preview showing, but I think that'll be out next month. So maybe I'll save that for next month. But really enjoyed that with Jeffrey Wright. I thought it was very, very funny. Very sharp script on it. And then I went this week to see Clerks, the 30th anniversary showing of Clerks, which is one of the films probably that means the most to me. Like growing up, I was just obsessed with that film. It was at a time before video phones, and it made you feel like you could get a camera and just make a movie in the local, wherever you happen to work, like Kevin Smith did back in 1994. But yeah, Clerks, watching that on the big screen for the first time was a little bit of a treat.
Brilliant. Thanks, James. I'll quickly mention probably second season of Reacher on Prime. First season covers one book. This covers another one. It's great casting and it's pretty good if you just want a good, straightforward, but great interpretation of the Jack Reacher character. It's they just get all the pieces in place there, but worth a catch. But as for this month, thank you to our usual host, Richard, James, Alfonso, and we'll see you next time. See you soon. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TV Review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.